Hi amazing authors and fantasy readers. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different with my channel, Ignited Ink Writing, a channel dedicated to helping authors like you transform your writing so it lingers with your readers. Because writing that lingers gets remembered and recommended to others. I'm Caitlin Burvey, editor and writer. What I want to do today is share a bit of my own writing with you. That way you can get a taste for my personal style. As you might know, I recently released my first book, When Magic Calls, a collection of modern fairy tales. I'm very excited about this, and I thought I'd celebrate with you by reading one of the shorter stories. I picked this story because it's short, fun to read, and is in line with Mer-May. So happy Mer-May, everyone. A salty invitation. Her hand in yours is soft as a kitten's fur, and weak as a baby bird, yet you can't let go. You're not certain you want to. Something about the gentle way she leads you compels you to continue down the shadowed sidewalk. Fog has rolled in from the sea, and you can barely perceive half a block ahead, despite the near full moon in the crisp autumn sky. Your steps are steady, if not sure. She seemed to be waiting for you in the parking lot with that paper takeout container, as if she knew you would arrive too late and didn't want you to go hungry. Her ebony eyes swirled with liquid secrets in a face too small and thin for them. A wet braid, dark as the night sea, reached to her waist, and her delicate skin was translucent, iridescent almost. She beamed at your gaze, lifted the container in offering, and pointed to a nearby bench. Without a word, she divided the meal in two, dishing the contents onto tiny paper plates, one at a time like courses. At first, you thought the dried green chips might be kale, and were startled into a coughing fit by the bitter flavor and overwhelming amount of salt in the dried seaweed. But you swallowed anyway. With a giggle as light and fragile as bubbles, she munched on her portion of the water plant. The second item had been much more appealing, and still warms your stomach. Fresh eel, that crackled as it slid down your throat. Her face turned serious. She studied you for several moments after you consumed her offering, as if she expected the eel to slither back out of your mouth. When nothing happened, a radiant smile broke across her face like waves breaking on a beach, and she placed the tiny, shimmering, round object on your plate. Must be a fancy mint, you thought. As you picked up the pearl and studied it, the woman motioned to your mouth with her tiny hands, and with a shrug, you popped in the pearl. Bumpy yet smooth, the object rolled as you explored it with your tongue, trying to discern its nature. Its flavor, while subtle and not unpleasant, was foreign and definitely not peppermint or spearmint or cinnamon. As you decided the thing in your mouth was not meant for eating, she rose and offered her hand. You accepted, and now find your fingers interlaced with hers while you roll the pearl around with your tongue. You want her to turn and smile like she did in the nearly deserted parking lot. With an extra large inhale, you prepare to call out, to ask where you're going, to get her to turn around. But the sound dies before your lips, becoming a wheeze at most. She squeezes your hand in reassurance and presses forward at her easy pace. You walk for what feels like hours. You try to reclaim your hand multiple times, yet the command and desire fade before reaching your fingers. Slowly, you become aware she is humming a tune, vaguely familiar, like the landscape of a dream. The concrete beneath your shoes turns to sand, and her lilting voice sticks to you like the salty harbor air. On land beside the sea, a weed was offered me. Salt stung my tongue when the night was young. Crunchy was the plant, designed to halt my pant, change my chemistry, so I might be the key. On land beside the sea, an eel was offered me. Stimulating electric zap explored my neural map, slippery water snake, died for my sake. Energy to grow, so I might freely go. On land beside the sea, a pearl was offered me. Without letter or word, its message was heard. Delicate and small, perfect little ball, plug my windy hole, so I might keep my soul. On land beside the sea, a weed was offered me. On land beside the sea, an eel was offered me. On land beside the sea, a pearl was offered me. On land beside the sea, 3 gifts transformed me. As you reach the wooden plank of an empty dock, her eerie song concludes, and you feel the eyes of the sea watching you, willing you to continue moving forward. Your need to release her hand wells inside until your fingers tremble. If you keep going, you know not only your life but your very being will change. You struggle to regain control of your body, to escape your mesmerized state. Your pinky breaks free from the spell. She stops, turns to you with that smile you crave, and lightly tugs. Your pinky curls and returns to her grip, and you follow her into the crashing waves, still holding her hand. Frigid water wraps you in a fierce embrace. With her free hand, she pulls your shoes and pants away, letting them be consumed by the water, sending ripples of goosebumps across your skin. You want to speak, to scream, to gasp, but you can do none of these, because the pearl in your mouth shifts to occlude your lungs, forcing your body to adapt. Your skin prickles around your neck, almost an itch. When you run the fingers of your free hand across your face, you find delicate gills along the length of your cheeks and neck. Water flows in and out in short bursts like breaths. She pulls you deeper. Your fingers and toes reach for each other. A thin flap of skin connects finger to finger and toe to toe in webbing that makes swimming easier. The water slides around you as if you aren't a land dweller anymore, but a creature who belongs in the sea, a being like the one who guides you, whose braid streams behind her, whose eyes pierce the depths of the sea, and whose bottom half has abandoned her 2-legged form in favor of a long, strong silver tail. Down and out, down and out. You swim faster, farther and deeper than you ever imagined, until the water becomes as black as a pool of ink. Still, you continue. The need to breathe air has left you, and your legs are beginning to move together as one instead of kicking. You lose track of time in the depths. Does it take minutes, hours, or days before the murky darkness gives way to a gradually intensifying light? The incandescent glow of bioluminescent algae, fish, and crustaceans illuminates the aquatic ecosystem. Hidden in the sea, a city made of rock and shells gleams. Vibrant fuchsias, tangerines, cerulean blues, and electric green corals trim the buildings, transforming them into living works of art. The mermaid does not pause for you to take in the wondrous sight, but leads you swiftly to a palace made from a coral reef, and grander than anything any illustrator has dreamed up. There she presents you to a court of merpeople. Each has a different metallic-colored rigid tail, with matching forearm fins, and each is adorned with pearls, glowing stones, or gold coins. Their eyes, too large for their faces, study you, your gills and forming tail. Still flesh-colored, your legs have stitched together, and half your skin has turned to scales. There's a prickling on the back of your forearms. As you run your hands along them, you feel a slight protrusion, and know your growing fins there too. With your mouth clamped tight, you stare back, sensing your continued existence rides on whatever decision the court makes. A female with ropes of pinkish pearls encircling her torso clicks and screeches, announcing their decision. The mermaid who tricked you, led you, chose you, swirls around in delight. 3 meal cycles later, you learn she has advanced in station for successfully bringing fresh land-lever genes to her people. The newest generation struggles to shed their gills and fins on the surface. You have passed their test. The meal of seaweed, eel, and pearl. Because your body transformed, you will produce viable offspring. Your rejuvenating DNA will grant their children legs and lungs as well as tails and gills. They will keep you in their palace, an honored if somewhat unwilling guest, until you grow old, wrinkled, and sterile, unless you refuse to contribute your genetic information. Is a person still a prisoner when they don't want to leave the place they've been taken to? You never would have followed her into the ocean if she hadn't used her enchantments. Yet you're curious, tempted. Your checkout date is somewhat in your hands. Do you choose an underwater life, plot escape, or remove the gifted pearl? That's the end of A Salty Invitation, one of my modern fairy tales from When Magic Calls. I do want to note that not all of these pieces are in second person point of view. I do like playing with perspective and point of view and form, so you'll see that in this collection. I chose this piece because it was short, it's one of my roommate's favorites, and it's fun to read. Again, happy Mer-May, and this is Ignited Ink Writing, a channel dedicated to helping authors like you transform your writing so it lingers with your readers. Because writing that lingers gets remembered and recommended to others. That's what I strive to do with my own stories. I'm Caitlin Burvey, editor and writer. To find out more about me, go to www.ignitedinkwriting.com. There you will find all sorts of advice on writing, as well as my editing and writing services. If you want to purchase When Magic Calls, you can find that most places books are sold, including my author website, caitlinburvey.com. I hope you enjoyed this story. Good luck igniting your ink!